It was Christmas Eve. I wasn't asleep. Through the wall, I heard my son and his wife whispering, "Once he's gone, the house is ours." The lawyer said it's simple. The next morning, I met with my attorney. By nightfall, the deed was in a private trust. When they showed up with realtors a week later, I was sitting in the living room, coffee in hand. I said, "Sell it now, and you're selling it for me." My name is Harold Benton. I am 72 years old. I built houses for a living and buried my wife, Helen, 5 winters ago. I still fix a loose hinge the day I hear it. I still turn on the porch light at dusk. I am a grandfather to Sophie, who draws snowmen with too many buttons and laughs at her own mistake. Through the wall I knew those voices. My son, Eric, careful, slow. My daughter-in-law, Lila, quick, certain. They spoke like I wasn't there at all, like I was furniture on the other side of the drywall. "Simple," Lila said. "Once he's in assisted living, the house moves." I lay still and watched the shadow of the maple branch cross the ceiling. I did not get up. I did not knock on their door. Years on job sites taught me a rule that never failed me. Measure twice, cut once. Say less. Do more. I walked the house in my mind. The living room where Helen and I danced after her last clean scan. The kitchen table with the shallow groove where Helen used to rest her forearm when she paid bills. The mantel with Sophie's school photo. If Eric and Lila got their way, these were just rooms to price. They were already counting my rooms in dollars. At dawn, I made coffee. My hand was steady on the cup. I dialed my attorney, Anand Patel. He had helped me with the simple things after Helen died. He knew the house. He knew me. Anand answered from home. I told him what I heard. He listened without breathing hard. "Come in," he said. "We'll keep it straightforward." By nightfall, it was done. I had 1 page to carry. The rest stayed where it needed to stay. I put my copy in the desk where I keep Helen's letters and my father's pocketknife. I washed my face. I turned on the porch light. I slept. A week later they came with realtors in dark coats and bright smiles. Lila's voice filled the doorway. "Great news on timing," she said. I sat in my chair by the window and set my coffee down so the saucer wouldn't rattle. Eric watched my hands. "Let's talk numbers," Lila said. I took the single page from my inside pocket and placed it on the coffee table. "Sell it now," I said, "and you're selling it for me." The morning after Christmas, the house held a chill the furnace couldn't chase off. I stood at the kitchen window with my coffee and watched a squirrel dig where Helen used to grow tomatoes. The counters were clean. The sink was dry. The light over the sink hummed like it always did. I walked the hall. The photos were straight. The Christmas cards were stacked on the buffet. Sophie had drawn a snowman with 3 buttons and a crooked hat. I traced the hat with a finger and set the drawing back. I carried the ladder from the garage and changed the burnt bulb on the porch. I shoveled the front walk even though the plows had cleared most of it. I put the shovel back on its hooks. The garage smelled like oil and cold metal. I set the ladder back on its shelf, same spot as always. I opened the hall closet. Helen's blue coat still hung there. I closed the door. I stood and listened. The house sounded normal. Pipes, a floorboard, distant traffic. No voices through the wall. I do not scare easy. I have set roof trusses in wind. I have worked with nails in January when my fingers went numb. But hearing your own child plan your exit is a different kind of cold. It didn't shake my hands. It cleared my head. At 9, I called Anand's office and left a message. "It's Harold. I would like to meet today." I wrote 3 words on a pad. Helen, house, respect. I underlined the last word once. Eric texted at 9:30. "Brunch at 11? We can talk plans. I typed back, "No thank you." I have an appointment. I sat at the kitchen table. My chair scraped the floor the way it always had. I ran a hand over the groove in the wood where Helen used to rest her arm. I tried to picture Eric as a boy, tugging at my sleeve to show me a bent nail he'd straightened. I could picture it, but I could also hear Lila's voice saying, "Once he's gone," not "when he chooses." Gone. That told me everything. At 10, Anand called back. "Noon," he said. Straightforward, like we discussed. I got my coat. I folded the note from the pad and slipped it into my pocket. I locked the door behind me. Snow blew across the street in thin lines. I stood for a moment on the porch and looked at the concrete steps I poured with my own hands. The house would hold. So would I. Anand Patel's office was quiet. A small tree stood in the corner with plain lights and a single ribbon at the top. He poured coffee. I did not refuse, even though I'd had 2 cups already. He let me speak from start to finish. He did not rush me. Then he nodded once. "We can secure your house today," he said. "We'll keep it simple." "I don't want a war," I said. "I want peace in my own rooms." "Then we'll be clean about it," he said. He explained what I needed to sign. No jargon. I signed where he pointed. A staffer witnessed. I wrote Helen's name on a small line that allowed a note. I paused when I finished. The ink dried under my hand. That was enough for me. While Anand made copies, I walked his short hallway and looked at framed photos of families on porches. Some porches were grand, some were small. It didn't matter. Each one looked like a place where a person could drink coffee in the morning without being told to leave. Anand returned with a single page for me to carry. "Keep this," he said. "You don't need to say anything else to them." "Will they bring people?" I asked. He smiled with one side of his mouth. "If they do, sit in your chair. Call me." That's all. On the way home, the sky hung low. Salt dusted the road. I drove the speed limit past the church where we held Helen's service. The lot was empty. A sign out front said, "Peace on Earth." I didn't feel peace. I felt steady. At home, I put that single page in my desk. Not with Helen's letters, not with my father's pocket knife. It got its own envelope. I wrote the date on it in block letters and closed the drawer. Eric sent a text at 3, a question mark. Then, "You home?" I set the phone face down. I shoveled the ridge the plow left across the walk. I wiped my boots on the mat the way I always do. I stood in the garage and looked at my workbench. The pegboard was clean. Every tool hung where it belonged. When night came, I turned on the porch light. I sat in the living room with the TV on low and didn't watch it. The house creaked once when the temperature dropped. I felt something useful settle in me. Not anger, focus. I slept with the bedroom door closed. 2 days after New Year's, Eric and Lila came by with a pecan pie and smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Lila wore too much perfume for January. Eric kept his hands in his jacket pockets. "We thought you might like company," Lila said. "And pie." "I like both," I said. I set the pie on the counter. "Plates are in the cabinet to your left." We ate at the kitchen table. I poured coffee. Lila barely touched hers. Eric drank fast. They asked about my sleep and whether the stairs were getting to be a lot. I said I managed fine. Lila's eyes moved over the mantel and the photo of Sophie. She was taking inventory. "We've been thinking," Lila said, folding a napkin in half, then in half again, "about making things easier for everyone. Utilities, insurance, the little things. We could help manage all that. Maybe bring some basic forms to get on file." "For whom would it be easier?" I asked. "For you," she said quickly. "Of course for you." "We're family," Harold Eric looked at me then. His eyes were hopeful and tired. I saw the boy who used to run across wet grass to show me a worm. I also saw the man who stood on the other side of a wall and planned my absence. "I handle my own bills," I said, "and my own home." Lila smiled, then dropped it. "You're being difficult," she said. "We're trying to help." "I'm being clear," I said. Eric reached for her wrist. She pulled it away. He looked smaller. She looked sharper. I kept my hands around my cup so I wouldn't drum my fingers on the table. "We'll bring by some forms next week," Eric said. "Nothing major." "I don't sign things under pressure," I said. "Or for show." Lila stood and stacked plates even though there was pie left. "You can trust us," she said at the door. "We're on your side." "Are you?" I asked. They went down the steps without answering. I watched their taillights turn the corner. I stood on the porch until the cold reached my sleeves. Inside, I set the pie back on the counter and left it covered. I went to the living room and sat in my chair by the window. The mailbox threw a short shadow on the snow. I could already see the ridge the plow would leave me in the morning. I wasn't moving. 3 days after the pie, I found a manila folder on my hall table. It did not belong to me. The tab read, "House." No last name, no date. Inside was the kind of plan people make when they think no one is looking. On top lay a draft exclusive right-to-sell agreement. My name was typed in the owner line. The commission was circled in red. A sticky note on the margin said, "Have Dad sign Saturday." Under it was a typed care plan with a brochure for a place called Maple Crest Senior Living stapled to it. A move-in checklist was clipped to the back. Someone had filled out my birth date and listed Eric as primary. Lila's name was written in as financial contact. The ink looked fresh. I stood there for a long minute with the folder open in my hands. I felt the same steady thing in my chest I had felt on Christmas Eve. Not anger. Focus. They were organized now. They had a calendar. They had a place for me to go and a buyer to meet. They had not planned for me to find their paperwork. I set the folder on the kitchen table and took photos of every page with my phone. I checked the images to make sure the edges were sharp and the dates were clear. I slid the originals into a large envelope and walked it to my desk. I did not put it with Helen's letters. It had its own drawer. My phone buzzed. Eric. We were in a rush. Did we leave a folder? I did not answer right away. I made coffee. I rinsed the mug and set it to dry. Then I typed, "Yes." He wrote back, "We'll swing by tonight." I typed, "Fine." I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the groove where Helen used to rest her arm. I thought about how many quiet nights had passed in this house without anyone plotting my exit. Then I pictured Lila writing my name on a line marked owner, and I felt the cold settle behind my ribs again. When they came that evening, Lila went straight for the hall table. It was empty. She stopped. Eric tried to smile. "You have something of ours," he said. I looked at him. "Do I?" Lila lifted her chin. "We forgot a real estate folder. No big deal." "Then you won't mind if my attorney reads it first," I said. "He likes to keep things simple." Lila's mouth tightened. Eric's eyes moved to the desk. I did not move. No one spoke. "Saturday still works," Lila said finally, "for signatures." "For pie," I said, "not signatures." They left without the folder. I had proof, and they knew it. They arrived after lunch with a stranger. A woman in a neat coat, a hard case under her arm. Lila put a clipboard on my kitchen table and smiled like we were about to bake something. "It's a medical release," she said. I slid the top page closer. The title was clear. Not a release. Power of attorney. Durable. Broad. I felt my jaw set. The woman with the case watched my hands. Eric stood behind them both like a shadow. His eyes stayed on the floor. I read the first paragraph twice. I pictured the folder I had locked in my desk. Their calendar. Their checklist. My birth date already filled in. They had moved past talk. They wanted control with a single pen stroke. Lila tapped the signature line. "Just routine." "Everyone is not me," I said. She blinked, then reset her smile. I didn't pick up the pen. I pulled my phone out and called Anand. I put the call on speaker. "All right?" he asked. Power of attorney, I said. They call it something else. Do not sign, he said. I'm on my way. Lila's smile fell. The woman with the case shifted her weight. Eric rubbed his thumb over his knuckles, a nervous habit from when he was 10, and hid bad report cards behind his back. This is getting dramatic, Lila said softly. It wasn't. It was simple. My house, my name, my choice. I slid the clipboard back across the table. Not today. The woman with the case cleared her throat and packed up without a word. Lila's mouth tightened into a straight line. Eric glanced at the hall, at the family photos, then back to the floor. They left, shoes loud on the porch. The door closed. I stood still and let the silence return to shape. My hands were steady. I ran water until it warmed, washed one cup, dried it, put it away. Then I took the folder from my desk and set it on the counter where I couldn't ignore it. The proof was in my house now, not in theirs. They had shown me their tools. I had mine. I wasn't angry. I was awake. And I was ready to use what I had. They planned a future with my house in it. I planned a future where they were not invited. Soon I'll make them regret everything. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I sat at the kitchen table with my checkbook and the morning's mail. 5 years of transfers sat in my memory like a ledger. Tuition help, roof patch, a car note. Eric swore was temporary. Support had turned into expectation, then into leverage against me. That ended now. I called the bank and stopped every automatic payment to Eric's account. No delays, no restart date. I called the card company and removed him as an authorized user. The scripted, "Are you sure?" did not bother me. I was sure. I wrote one check I wanted to write. The trade school on 9th Street. Helen believed in work and skill. So did I. A small scholarship for first-year carpentry students in her name. Clean, useful. I sealed the envelope and set it by the door. I called a locksmith. He came before dark, a quiet man with quick hands. He swapped out the deadbolts like he'd done it 1,000 times. He didn't ask why. When he finished, he laid 2 new keys on my palm. Cold metal, firm weight. I put one on my ring and the other in the desk. I walked to the hall closet and touched Helen's blue coat. I left it there. Some anchors should not move. My phone buzzed. Eric, we need to talk. Another message followed. Stop freezing us out. I stared at the screen. I typed, tomorrow at noon. You alone. He replied, Lila is coming. I wrote, then not tomorrow. I stood in the garage and looked at my workbench. The pegboard was clean. The hammer I bought when I was 15 hung in its spot. My hand closed around it for a second. The feel of it reminded me who I was before and after anyone else had plans for me. This was not a tantrum. It was a correction. I set the hammer back. I turned off the garage light. In the kitchen, I stacked the day's letters, washed my hands, and turned on the porch light like I always did. The house looked the same. The ground under it felt different. I finally slept well. They came a week later with 2 realtors and a camera on a strap. The younger one moved fast, measuring doorways with a tape like she was racing a clock. The older one nodded at crown molding I'd installed the year Helen wanted the room finished, and called it classic. Lila pushed a glossy packet onto my coffee table. Timing is perfect, she said. Eric stood behind her, jaw tight. He wouldn't look at me. I sat in my chair by the window, coffee in hand. The single page Anand had given me was folded once in my pocket. I listened to the realtors talk about comps and coming soon, about a pre-market email blast. I let it all slide past. Before you begin, I said, and set the folded page on top of the packet. Read this. The younger realtor scanned the line that mattered. Her eyebrows lifted. She passed it to the older one. He read slower, his mouth pressed flat. This prevents a listing, he said. It prevents mistakes. I said. Lila didn't touch the paper. You can't cut us out, she said. Her voice was low and tight. We're family. You cut yourselves out, I said. You left a folder in my hall. You brought a notary to my kitchen. Eric finally looked at me. He looked like a man standing on the wrong train platform, watching the right train pull away. We can still work together, he said. It sounded weak even to him. No, I said. The older realtor closed his binder. We should give you a moment, he told them. He headed for the door. The younger one followed. Lila stayed a breath longer. You'll regret this, she said. I regret hearing you on Christmas Eve, I said. The rest is fine. They stepped onto the porch. Through the window, I watched them argue in short, sharp bursts. The younger realtor shook her head. The older one pointed at the street and then at the paper. Lila's smile was gone. Eric stared at the snow like it might tell him what to do. I didn't move. The house was quiet around me. The line was clear now. They wanted speed. I had time. They wanted signatures. I had proof. I sipped my coffee and let them talk themselves empty before they came back in. Anand arrived 10 minutes after they stepped onto the porch. He came in calm, coat still buttoned. He glanced at the packet on my table, then at the single page on top. He nodded once, then turned to the door. Let's speak outside, he said. Through the window I watched him with the realtors. No raised voices. Short talk. The younger one's shoulders dropped. The older one folded his binder. Both shook their heads and walked to their car. Lila stood small for a moment, then squared herself and came back in with Eric behind her. This is ridiculous, she said. You're humiliating us. No, I said. I'm protecting my home. Eric tried to find a smile. Dad, we can still fix this. Fix what? I asked. That you brought strangers to sell a house you don't own? Lila's mouth went flat. You're making everything harder than it needs to be. Harder for whom? I asked. Anand stayed by the door, quiet and steady. He didn't need to say much. His presence did the work. Lila looked from him to the table to me. She knew this was not a bluff. This isn't over, she said. It can be, I said. Right now. Eric's jaw worked. He muttered, We'll talk later. But his eyes said he didn't know what to say next. They left, steps loud on the porch. The house quieted in one sweep. I stood still and let my breath catch up. Anand picked up the single page and handed it back to me. Keep living your life, he said. Call me when they come back, if they come back. They will, I said. He nodded. Then we'll be ready. He left. I sat in my chair and watched the bare maple move against the sky. No triumph, just a clearer line. Morning would come the same as always. The difference was mine. Next day, Anand called. His tone was even. We've looked at what you found, he said. The listing draft used your name without consent. The care plan lists facts they should not have. Is it illegal? I asked. That depends on what they push, he said. What matters is you saw it and stopped it. I thanked him and hung up. I stood in the hallway and looked at the family photos. Eric at 7, holding a plastic bat, grinning without his front teeth. Eric at 12, next to a wonky birdhouse we built together. He had always rushed the nails, eager to be done, proud anyway. Lila wasn't in those frames. She was in my present, not my past. A message popped up. Lila, please sign the medical release today. It's dangerous not to. I typed back. Stop calling it that. She replied, You're being paranoid. I put the phone face down. I opened the desk drawer and took out the manila folder. I moved through every page again. The circled commission. The line with my name. Maple Crest's brochure. Glossy and cheerful. Next to move-in notes that didn't include my say. My name used like a handle. A date for my absence. My house mapped like a prize. I took new photos under brighter light. I printed sets at the pharmacy on 9th Street. The clerk didn't look at what I handed her. She just bagged the pages and told me to have a good day. On the way home, I drove past Eric and Lila's place and did not stop. Back at the kitchen table, I stacked the prints and set 3 paper clips on the pile. I looked at the groove where Helen used to rest her arm. I imagined her face if she could see this mess. She would say, "Stay calm. Set your line. Make them step over it if they dare." I could hear her voice so clearly I had to set my hand flat on the table to steady myself. I was not scared anymore. I was ready. If they tried to move me, I would not move. If they called me stubborn, I would wear the word like a name tag and go on with my day. I asked Eric to come alone the next afternoon. He came anyway. Lila was right behind him. I didn't argue. I set 3 things on the kitchen table and kept my voice level. "The folder you left," I said, tapping the originals. "Photos I took." I tapped the prints. "And this." I slid over a simple ledger I'd printed last night. 5 years of transfers from me to them. Dates, amounts, notes in my handwriting, roof, brakes, camp, mortgage shortfall. Eric stared at the numbers. He knew them. He'd made some of the requests in tears and some with a shrug. His face reddened anyway. "You promised to help," he said. "I promised to raise a son," I said. "Not to fund a plan to remove me from my home." Lila didn't look at the ledger. She looked at the folder. "We're trying to manage a situation you're not seeing," she said. "You forget things. You left the stove on last month." "I turned it off," I said, "and called you to tell you I was fine. You turned that into a reason to move me." "It's about safety," she said. "It's about convenience," I said. Eric lifted his eyes. For a second I saw the boy again. Then Lila touched his elbow and he hardened. "You're being cruel," he said. "Cruel would have been signing your paper and not telling you," I said. "Cruel would have been letting you sell a house you don't own and watching you explain it to a judge." I'm being clear. Silence filled the kitchen. The heater clicked on. Outside, a plow scraped the street. I could have offered coffee. I didn't. "Take your folder," I said. I kept copies. Eric didn't move. Lila reached out, grabbed it, and held it to her chest like it might bite her. They left without another word. It started that night. A cousin texted, "Are you okay?" Lila says you're confused. My sister called from Arizona and asked if I had fallen. A church friend forwarded a message from Lila about a difficult transition and concern for Harold's safety. I didn't chase each rumor. I sent one calm email to the family list with 2 images attached. The first page of the listing draft with my name in the owner line, and the care plan with Maple Crest spelled out in bold. I wrote one line under them. "I am fine. I am not moving. Please do not spread lies about me." My phone went quiet. Then Sophie texted from her mother, Nora's phone. "Grandpa, are you okay?" I told her yes. I told her we would build a birdhouse this spring. She sent a heart. Her mother didn't add a word. I took the small win and put the phone down. Lila called twice. I let it ring. She left a message about authorities and a welfare check. The doorbell rang at 9. It was Officer Mills, the same man who directed traffic at the summer fair. He stood on the porch with his hat in his hands. "Got a call," he said. "Mind if I take a quick look around?" "Come in," I said. I showed him the kitchen, the bedroom, the pantry, the medicine cabinet. He sniffed like lawmen do, looking for a story that matched the report. He didn't find one. He thanked me and left with a quiet shake of his head. I sat in my chair and listened to the house settle. Anger would have been easy. Instead, I felt tired and steady. Smear me if you want. Make calls. Stir worry. My door was locked. My mind was clear. My line was set. I turned on the porch light. The snow had stopped. The night was sharp and still. I was not moving. 2 days after the realtors fled my porch, An email arrived from the brokerage. Short. Final. We cannot represent this property. No apology. No wiggle. A door shut with a clean click. An hour later, a number I didn't recognize called. Bank security, the woman said. We flagged an online request to add an authorized user to your account. The email on the request isn't yours. We've frozen any changes pending your confirmation. It isn't mine, I said. Understood, she replied. Her voice was professional and dry. Will note attempted unauthorized access. I thanked her and hung up. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the new keys on my ring. Cold metal. Firm weight. I had changed the locks and canceled the transfers. Now other doors were closing by themselves. Lila texted within the hour. This is childish. You're making us look bad. Then, we can still fix this with one signature. Her urgency bled through every word. Her control was slipping. She could feel it. Eric tried softer. Dad, please. We had a plan. Lila is under pressure at work. We thought this would help everyone. Can we reset? Reset. He loved that word. He used it when he couldn't face what he'd done, like a boy asking to start the game over after dropping the ball. I typed back, no. At dusk, the door rattled. Lila tried a key that no longer fit. She jiggled harder. The storm door vibrated. I didn't move from my chair. When the lock didn't give, she rang the bell twice, hard and fast. I stood, crossed the room, and opened the inside door, leaving the storm door latched. She stared through the glass. Eric stood behind her, pale and tight around the mouth. You changed the locks, she said. Yes. That's not right. It is, I said. It's my house. She smoothed her coat, tried on a smile, and failed. This doesn't end well for you. People are talking. We can call Adult Protective Services. We can... You already called for a welfare check, I said. Officer Mills liked my pantry. Eric flinched. Lila's eyes hardened. She wasn't used to walls that held. She was used to doors that opened when she pushed. I'll say this once, I said. No more surprises. No more strangers. If you have business with me, you speak through Anand. You're hiding behind a lawyer, she said. I'm standing in my own doorway, I said. That's different. They left without another word. Their footsteps sounded sharp on the porch and hollow on the steps, like they were walking away from something they thought they owned. Maybe they believed I'd chase them down the walk. I didn't. I turned the deadbolt with a quiet turn and went back to my chair. One by one, the doors they counted as theirs were closing. Not with drama, with choice. I met Anand the next morning. He had 2 folders on his desk and a cup of tea he never touched. He didn't give me a speech. He set the first folder in front of me. This is the plan, he said, straightforward like you asked. I read what mattered. The house stayed with me for the rest of my life, without condition. After, it went where I chose, to the trade school scholarship in Helen's name. A clean gift, not a weapon, not a taunt. A piece of good to set against what had been done. Sign here, Anand said. He pointed once. I signed. The ink dried under my hand. The second folder was thinner. This is separate, he said. A college fund for Sophie. Locked from her parents. When she turns 18, she gets it. If she needs it sooner for school supplies or a camp, you can approve small withdrawals. Clear rules. I thought of Sophie's crooked snowman hat. I thought of her text asking if I was okay. Yes, I said. We'll set it up. Do you want to leave a letter? He asked. I did. I took a sheet of paper and wrote in my hand what I wanted read when the time came. Not long, not bitter, just true. Eric, you counted my rooms like money and forgot they were our life. You planned my absence. Because of that, you are not in these papers. I am not doing this to punish a mistake. I am doing it to name a choice. You made yours. I am making mine. Dad. I sealed the letter. Anand put it with the folder. This is your boundary, he said, a line in ink. We went to the trade school on 9th Street that afternoon. The director, Mrs. Alvarez, met us in the small office off the shop floor. The air smelled like sawdust and machine oil. Boys and girls in canvas aprons moved between benches, heads down, hands busy. It felt like hope and work. I handed her the first check. In my wife's name, I said. Carpentry students. She smiled without fuss. We'll put it to use, she said. We'll send you the first recipient in the spring. On the way out, a student used a hand plane on a board, and the shavings curled soft and light. I felt steady. Eric and Lila had wanted to turn a life into a sail. I had turned it into something that would outlast me. That was revenge I could live with. They came at dusk, without a pie or a smile. No realtors this time. No notary. Just Lila in a dark coat and Eric at her shoulder. The porch light was on. The snow had iced over and made their steps careful. I opened the inside door and left the storm door latched. I didn't invite them in. We're done playing, Harold, Lila said. You're going to undo whatever you did. You're going to put us back in, or this gets ugly. Ugly started on Christmas Eve, I said. You brought it to my wall. She leaned in until her breath fogged the glass. You owe us, she said. Years of help, and this is how you say thank you? You'd rather give money to strangers than to your own family. You are not owed my house, I said. You were given help. You turned it into a plan to remove me. Eric tried a pleading face that used to work when he was 10. Dad, we'll take care of you. We'll handle everything. Just sign one form and we can fix this. It can be like it was never like you remember, I said. It was me paying and you forgetting. Lila's voice dropped to a hiss. Undo it, she said. No, I said. She bared her teeth in something that wasn't a smile. Then we'll make it hard, she said. We'll tell everyone you've lost it. We'll drag you into court. You'll do what you already tried, I said. And I'll do what I already did. I gave copies of everything to Anand. I left copies with Mrs. Henderson next door. If anything happens to me, the police get a packet. It's already prepared. That stopped her. She blinked. I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't hide it either. And something else, I said. I held up a small stack of paper and pressed it to the glass. Eric recognized it right away. The ledger. 5 years. Each line I had paid. Each note. Each temporary fix. In red ink at the bottom I had written one word. Closed. Eric's face fell like a curtain. He swallowed. Lila broke first. You ungrateful, she began. No, I said. Accurate. We stood there, separated by a thin sheet of glass and years of choices. She had greed. She had speed. She had the mouth for it. What she didn't have was me. Not anymore. From now on, I said, you speak to me through Anand. If you show up with strangers, the police will meet you at the curb. If you spread lies, copies go wider. If you want to see Sophie here, her mother brings her and stays while we build a birdhouse. You can't cut us out of our own father's life, Lila said. You did that, I said. I'm signing the receipt. I let the silence sit. Then I closed the inside door, turned the deadbolt, and walked back to my chair. They stood a minute longer, small and angry in the porch light. Then they left. I didn't watch them go. I didn't need to. I had set the terms and meant them. That was the part they never understood about me. When I am done, I am done. Winter held, and the days inched forward. Mrs. Alvarez sent a photo of the scholarship notice pinned to the trade school board. The Helen Benton Award, the paper read, for hands that build what they plan. I printed the photo and set it on the mantel next to Sophie's school picture. Sophie came over one Saturday with Nora, who kept her coat on and her guard up. I didn't mind. We had clear lines now. We built a birdhouse at the kitchen table. Sophie held the nails. I steadied the wood. She hit my thumb once and gasped, and I laughed because it didn't hurt much and because the sound of her laugh lifted the house higher than any sale price. "Can I paint it purple?" she asked. "It's your birdhouse," I said. "But the birds will talk." She grinned. Nora watched from the doorway with her arms crossed. When we finished, Sophie wrote her name on the bottom in careful letters and the year next to it. "This goes on the maple," I said. After they left, I sat at the table a while. The house was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that eats at you. I made tea and wrote a note to the trade school about a second check for the spring. I put new batteries in the smoke detectors, because that's the kind of man I am. I turned the porch light on at dusk because that's who I've always been. A week later, Anand called. "One more thing," he said. "The notary filed a report about an attempted misrepresentation. There won't be charges, not without a signature, but the note is on record. People will think twice before trying this again." "Good," I said. I didn't need a courtroom scene. I needed peace that was earned. That night, I sat in my chair with the ledger on my lap. I didn't open it. I just held it. It had weight. It reminded me I had kept count of what mattered and corrected what didn't. Outside, the maple's branches were bare and sure. The birdhouse would hang there in spring. The scholarship would pick a first student. Sophie would grow. I would be here to see what I could. Eric and Lila did not come back. They sent one short email through Anand 2 weeks later. It said, "We understand your decision." I believed part of that sentence. I put my feet on the rug Helen had chosen. I looked at the photo on the mantel and at the printed notice from the school. Love was still here. Work was still here. Boundaries held. Consequence had landed where it should. Revenge had not made me smaller. It had made room for the life I wanted to keep. I turned off the lamp and let the house rest. It was mine, and I was in it. Be honest with me. If you heard your own child through the wall planning to sell your house, would you forgive? Or would you draw the line and hold it? Share your thoughts in the comments.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.